This is an AudioMint original.
Hello, and welcome to Nation of Animation, a cartoon book club podcast for all ages. I am half of your hosting team, Brooke Aaron Smith.
And I am the other half of your hosting team, Ryan Stevens.
No bit from you, Ryan? No little joke you want to play on me?
No.
Wow.
I'm Oh goodness, I'm sorry. I'll have to cut that out. I just Oh good. I'm transforming. Oh no. I just spat up a wolf. What's up with that?
I wish the world could see my face right now. The disdain I feel.
I wish the world could see my face right now because it's a wolf face.
Well, thank you for that. That does give us a clue as to what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about a movie. We're going back to the cinema. We both watched this movie. We had never seen this movie before, actually. It was a first-time watch for both of us. It's a newer movie.
World premiere for us.
It is called Wolfwalkers.
Wolfwalkers.
It was produced by
Cartoon Saloon and Melusine Productions. Cartoon Saloon operating out of Kilkenny, Ireland, and Melusine Productions operating out of Luxembourg.
Wolfwalkers is brand new, really. It came out in 2020. It was directed by Tomm Moore and Ross Stewart. Tomm Moore is pretty well known within animation circles. His big famous film is The Secret of Kells, which I have not seen.
Oh, it's great. We'll have to talk about that one at another time. That's another kick-ass film. Yeah, The Secret of Kells and another film of his, Song of the Sea, along with Wolfwalkers, make up a sort of Irish folklore trilogy for Moore. And I think that, guess what? He is Irish, which makes sense. And that sort of like mythology and folktale story background is really prevalent in all these films.
So Tomm Moore was born in Northern Ireland, and then his family moved to Kilkenny in the Republic of Ireland. Kilkenny is also where Wolfwalkers is set, though not in present day. And I think this is an interesting lens to look at his work through, especially Wolfwalkers, which we'll talk a little more about, but just the history of, both Ireland and Northern Ireland specifically. So Wolfwalkers is based on the folklore surrounding the wolf people of Ossory. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But that's where Tomm Moore sort of took the inspiration for this as the script was coming together. Though he was not the writer of the script, I don't believe. Is that right?
Screenplay is by Will Collins, although Moore and Stewart did develop the story themselves.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So this movie premiered at the 2020 Toronto International Film Festival. That was later last year, actually. So during the pandemic, I believe the Toronto International Film Festival, though, was virtual, similar to Sundance.
As it should have been.
Someone please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the case. So this movie has been big awards fodder this past year. It's been nominated for a lot of things, most notably Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards. It did lose to Disney Pixar's Soul. So that wasn't cool.
And not to give away our thoughts on Wolfwalkers, but Wolfwalkers was robbed. Wolfwalkers should have won. Soul, I'm not taking anything away from Soul. Soul is good. Wolfwalkers is better.
So if you Google Wolfwalkers and you click the news tab, what will come up right now is like a million articles that are like, justice for Wolfwalkers! People are mad about Wolfwalkers!
As they should be.
And I get it. Especially, we're looking at Best Animated Feature. There needs to be something about the animation that takes it a step further. Even if you like personally related to Soul's story more, I think it's got to be about the animation. And I liked Soul fine, like it was fine. But they weren't doing the things that Wolfwalkers is doing, I didn't think.
This is not a Soul episode, but I think there are like inventive experimental bits in Soul, but they are sprinkled throughout. And I think Wolfwalkers is overall doing a lot more interesting stuff with the form of the medium of animation.
I agree. So we're on Team Wolfwalkers. We think Wolfwalkers should have won the Academy Award, but awards are meaningless anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's fine. It won in our hearts. It did get big wins, though, speaking of awards, from the Annie Awards, which are the big animation awards. Which are,
listen, truly more important than the Oscars. I'll say it.
Sure. By our layperson standards, we can say that.
Layperson, I don't know about you, but I am hosting one of the top 50 animation podcasts in Canada. That doesn't sound like a layperson to me.
Anyway, at the Annie Awards, it won Best Animated Feature Independent. It won Best Character Design, Best Direction, Best Production Design, and Best Voice Acting for Eva Whittaker, who voiced Maeve, who we'll talk about, but she's like a little wolf child. I love her. It also has a 99% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Who's the 1% punk who didn't want to like it?
I don't know.
Hunt them down.
There's always one.
Probably a British person.
I could see that. Speaking of the voice acting, though, the two kids are like the voice acting stars in this. It features two young girls, and it's Eva Whittaker and Honor Neefsey. Honor Neefsey has several BBC credits, but I saw this and I said, what? She was also in every single one of the Christmas Prince movies on Netflix.
Wow. Nice. So get that paper, Honor Neefsey. Good for you.
Go watch her extensive backlog of films. There's also some well-known adults in this. Sean Bean from Lord of the Rings is the dad. Maria Doyle Kennedy, who I knew as Catherine of Aragon from The Tudors, was Maeve's mom. And then Simon McBurney voices the Lord Protector, Oliver Cromwell. Little spoiler. And he has lots of credits. When reading over his credits, though, the big one that stood out to me was he was the voice of Creature in Harry Potter.
Damn, they got Creature for this?
They got Creature!
They got Creature in the booth.
Speaking about production stuff, there's also a super cool score done by Bruno Coulet and the folk group Kila. There's also like a big song in it that's like a montage, lots of great animation, but it's called Running with the Wolves. And it's actually a re-recording of Norwegian artist Aurora's hit single that she had released several years ago, which Ryan knew apparently.
Yeah, I was a college radio DJ, as you can probably tell by my mic presence. And our radio station had Aurora's album in our heavy rotation for a time. And I remember frequently playing Running with the Wolves on the old radio. And to hear it again, I was like, wait a minute, where do I know this from? What are these wolves telling me about my own past? It's a real cat's memory moment, in a good way.
You think it was like the song Memory from the hit film Cats?
Yeah, from the hit feature film Cats, yeah.
Sung by Jennifer Hudson?
Release the butthole cut.
I forgot about that. Ugh. Flashbacks.
Real world recommendation, Cats. Anyway, speaking of where to watch stuff, Brooke, you watched this on Apple TV Plus, right?
I did. Luckily, my landlady has Apple TV Plus, so I get to watch things on it.
Well, nice. There you go. If you sprung for Ted Lasso, you can also watch Wolfwalkers.
Yes, if you haven't gotten the free trial yet, I think this would be a great thing to get the free trial for, because it's an hour 45 movie. Great runtime, by the way, for an animated film. Not too long. Absolutely perfect. Yeah, I think it would be worth signing up and putting your info in and seeing if Apple can trick you into going for the full year. So now we do not have a sponsorship with Apple. When we were recording and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we had like put in the code Cartoon Book Club for 10% off 1 month of Apple TV Plus.
That would be cool. Listen, we talk a big game, but we'll sell out the first chance we get.
Unfortunately, Apple has not sponsored this episode yet.
So, Brooke watched it on Apple TV Plus. I also watched the film not using Apple TV Plus. So, listen, there's nothing wrong with it. Grows the economy.
It specifically doesn't.
It grows the economy because I can spend my money on other local businesses instead.
Would you pirate a car?
Yes. Yes! Would I pirate my college education? Yes.
I mean, sure, but that's something that should already be free. But if we're looking at true communism, shouldn't everything kind of be free because of the money we pay into taxes?
Every utility, I think if, transportation should be provided. Anyway, we have lots of thoughts. Every episode we flirt with just becoming a full socialism podcast that occasionally thinks about cartoons, which, wouldn't be the worst thing.
That's our next project.
Mm-hmm. Just Nation. It's just called Nation.
I'd listen.
So, Wolfwalkers, the general elevator pitch is that it is as we mentioned, a story drawing on Irish folklore and sort of fairy tales, spelled Faerie.
Also,
tales.
We're going to try not to spoil the ending if you haven't seen it yet. So this is actually one that you can not have the ending spoiled, maybe.
So it is a story about an English girl named Robin and her father named Bill. Bill works for the English army.
Was his name Bill?
Bill Goodfellow.
I don't think I heard his name the whole time. Great. Bill.
So Bill and Robin are part of the English efforts to subjugate all of Ireland, as evil empires are wont to do. As such, they are living in a walled city set up by the English, and Bill hunts wolves, because this part of the country has a severe wolf problem, as well as a severe pagan, quote-unquote, problem in the eyes of the powers that be. They eventually discover this small child who is something called a Wolfwalker, which basically means that whenever Wolfwalkers, as humans, go to sleep, their soul leaves their body as a wolf, which is violates the laws of thermodynamics, but that's the power of magic, baby. That when you go to sleep, you can just spit a wolf up and go do wolf things. And so Robin ends up being caught between this natural world of Wolfwalkers that she has grown to love and the more, rational, quote-unquote, civilized world of society that she's been raised in her whole life. And that is the central tension of the Wolfwalkers film.
Yes, and eventually Robin gets bitten by Maeve just on accident. And when a human gets bitten by a Wolfwalker, they also become a Wolfwalker. So then Robin becomes a Wolfwalker too, and she can more help Maeve as they try to bring Maeve's mom home, who is also a Wolfwalker who has gone missing.
So there you go. It's like vampire, wolf. What's another film with this sort? It's like Fox and the Hound, but about Ireland, and also there's vague vampire rules.
Yes, but very enjoyable, especially if you're someone who likes fantasy stuff. I think you'll really enjoy it. Also, if you're like, where's the strong young women cartoons?
We got two of them.
Yeah.
Well, we got two of them in this one film, but yeah.
So I thought it was really enjoyable. I really liked it. I thought I would, though. I didn't go in thinking, I'm not going to like this, because it had a lot of my personal interests involved. Being wolves, magic, strong women, creature from Harry Potter.
Yeah. The first thing I knew when I met Brooke was this girl loves wolves.
That's not true. You know that's
got
not
real
true.
wolf energy.
I'm not a wolf girl.
You just said things I'm interested in. Wolves.
Well, yes, I'm interested in wolves just in general, the way that most people are. Not to a strange degree. Though if you're interested in wolves like that, it's okay.
Hell yeah, wolves are cool.
At the beginning of the movie, though, I was very concerned because the movie starts with like a wolf attack on people. And I thought, how dare they? Wolves are relatively gentle creatures. They are not going to come out here and attack humans like this. What is this wolf slander? But then it comes out that they're doing it because the people were cutting down their forest where they live. And it was like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, the wolves are all right.
Yeah, the wolves were the wronged party. Don't believe any English slander.
But I was concerned about that at the beginning. So I was glad that that changed as it went on.
I also really enjoyed this. I mean, I have seen Secret of Kells, and I think that movie is incredible. I think this studio's art style is just really, really beautiful to look at and really dynamic. That's another film that shares that shares Wolfwalker's sense of like large, clear, clean shapes for all the characters and all the backgrounds, and a lot of really fluid motion and movement. The what did they say the art style was based on here? It's sort of like woodcuts,
Yeah, like
or
wood
like the
block.
folk art of the time. And that sort of like really elegant, clear simplicity is really catching to the eye. I've always sort of enjoyed like medieval or Middle Ages style like religious art, just because I think that they do a lot of work with not a lot of detail. Seeing like, before artists learned about three dimensions and shading and shadows, and seeing just everything play out in 2D, like moving left to right in old art, has also always been cool. And I think this film captures that sort of like really clear, creative benefits of simplicity in design.
Yeah, we're starting to talk a little bit about the animation. Before we go fully, though, I'd like to talk about just some of the themes of the film, or the issues or the important moments that you and I picked out. One of the big things, real life person Oliver Cromwell is a character
It's so funny
in the film.
It's so good. They call him just the Lord Protector for a while, and then eventually someone like mentions his name's Cromwell. And in my notes, I wrote Cromwell and like drew an angry face. This motherfucker. The Puritans are here.
So give him a little Google search, I guess, if you don't know who he is. But he was a real life person who worked for the crown.
And then overthrew it.
Yeah, so I don't know. You might enjoy it.
So Oliver Cromwell, for those of you who don't know, sort of one of the architects of like the English Civil War, to the brief time when the monarchy was overthrown and like puritanical rule was reinstated. And, all fun things like theater or freedom of expression were not allowed under their strict dictatorship. Nation of Animation is by no means a fan of monarchy, but boy, was this a bit of a swing and a miss in terms of alternative means of power in England.
But his inclusion really hits on one of the big themes of the film, which is like colonization with a religious motivation behind it. And we also need to consider, as we're talking about it, Tom Moore's lens that he's viewing it through as someone who was born in Northern Ireland, grew up in the Republic of Ireland, and the way that England has had influence on these areas.
Yeah. I think that for us as Americans, and for most of like the Western world, England has really shaped the narrative around Ireland. When we think about Ireland, we're often told that it's like, it's near England and they have a slightly different accent. And there was some history there. There was this famine. Lord knows how it happened or who caused it. The twist is that the British caused it on purpose. But we often think about like the conflict in Ireland and England as like distant history, or at best like something that was like wrapped up in the 70s or 80s. But the fact of the matter is there is still like existing tension there, and the people living today in Ireland and Northern Ireland are still living through and dealing with the like ramifications of just a few generations ago actual bloodshed being waged because of cruel and inhuman occupation by an imperial force that has been going on for hundreds of years.
And we see a lot of this in the film, in that Cromwell and his sort of lackeys within the city are against the Wolfwalkers and make their reasoning be that it's like an abomination against God. Like, God does not approve of this.
And it's like, the Irish, quote unquote, to Cromwell are uncivilized, or he calls their religion, quote unquote, pagan nonsense. It's very similar to how, what's the bad guy in Pocahontas' his name? Ratcliffe?
Yes,
what's his name?
Yes.
Yeah, that like use of quote unquote civilization as a means to justify just greed and domination. Even though Cromwell isn't as capitalist as Ratcliffe, I think Cromwell does truly believe his dogma, and that's what makes him dangerous.
Also, Pocahontas sucks.
And Pocahontas is, hella loaded and messy. We will, if we ever do a Pocahontas episode, we will have an expert on.
Yeah, it shouldn't be us. Yeah, so that's something that is prevalent throughout the movie, and then goes into like the oppressiveness of Christianity versus like the more equitable, quote unquote, paganism, which is what the Wolfwalkers are doing, becoming wolves at night when they sleep. And it's sort of used.
And to be clear, there are pagans who are not Wolfwalkers. It is not an equation of like, if you believe in paganism, you get magic wolf powers.
Sure.
You have to get bitten for that.
So I actually don't want to necessarily say Christianity. I'll say the church is used as like a means of control within the society. Especially you see that Robin has to go and work at the scullery to prevent her from going out to see the Wolfwalkers. And it's sort of like a religious work sort of thing. And her dad even says, work is prayer, Robin.
I mean, yeah, the whole scullery sequence is Robin working with nuns, and it's a means to keep her busy and keep her away from
I don't know if they're nuns. I think
they're dressed like nuns.
I think that's just like Puritan clothes.
Well, it has the religious tones are there.
Yes.
The payoff of that sequence is at the end. Robin's had like a terrible, long, hard day of labor with no fulfillment.
But they wouldn't be nuns though, especially because they wouldn't be Catholic.
Well, no, Cromwell was Catholic. He was like tolerant of Protestants, but he was Catholic.
Oh, okay. Well, I still don't think they're nuns.
Okay. Well, they're still religiously coded.
Sure.
And then poor Robin comes home, and she's exhausted, and her dad says, work is prayer, Robin. And Robin, like a sitcom character, goes, then I've prayed the whole Bible.
Yeah, so that's a very, if you're looking at the most obvious themes that stand out, that's definitely one. Another one is something we talked about last episode when we talked about Full Metal Alchemist. But that's the notion of just following orders. Because Robin's dad, especially, is sort of an example of this. He has orders from the Lord Protector Oliver Cromwell to kill the wolves. And even as he finds out more about them, even as he realizes what he's doing is wrong, he's still operating under the notion that he's just following orders to keep his family safe.
And this is, again, the power of, like, dogma and letting yourself be guided by the principles of others, which we also saw in Full Metal Alchemist. Like, you can't just follow orders, you have to take responsibility for your own part in these terrible, huge systems.
Yeah.
Which this film does touch on in a pretty like straightforward way. I was pretty pleased with how it walked that line.
Yes, though we won't spoil the end, but there is one thing that happens at the end, Ryan, I know you had a little bit of an issue with, and I did too. Mm-hmm. Just the notion that someone who actively worked against a group could be rewarded or accepted by that group, or should be. I don't know. People can form their own opinions on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just something that happens a lot in a lot of media, is that we are conditioned to think that, I'm not saying we're conditioned. In a lot of media, forgiveness happens really, really easily, and all a character really has to do to, like, in the eyes of a work, undo all the harm they've caused is just say they're sorry and, like, hold their hat in their hands, and that, like, can unmake any harm they've caused. And that is just, not enough for me.
Sure, and we sort of talked about this as well with, like, Full Metal Alchemist and what those people could do to get forgiven if there is anything.
I would love a scene where Bill Goodfellas says, and when this is over, can I do a Sean Bean? Let's try. And when this is over, I want to stand trial for war crimes.
Yeah, sure. Where's that in the media?
I know. I want the next Pixar film to be about The Hague.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, these are sort of the heavier themes that are present throughout the film. But one thing I did want to bring up, because I thought this was very cool. The movie is about two young women. I think a lot of it is about the power of young women and the ways that they are, quote unquote, caged, either literally or figuratively, by society, and then how they break free of that. And I also liked that there wasn't a romance in it. It was just about a strong female friendship between two people who you would not think would necessarily be friends. They were very different people, and they share a bond, and through the power of themselves, they make everything coolio again.
Yeah, and similar to that, it's just also super sick to be a wolf. It's a big theme of the film, how cool it is to be a wolf.
It did seem much better to be a Wolfwalker than to be a member of the Puritan Society. So.
Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, being a wolf seems cooler than most things, and being a Puritan seems worse than most things. So
That's true. So those are just some of the issues, themes, big moments that we wanted to hit on. I'm sure we have not taken it all.
sorry, and I want to go back to the thing you said about when you talk about like women being like caged and restrained. Yeah, like you said, literally or figuratively. Yeah, this one has both. There are there are literal people in cages at certain points in this film, which makes the point pretty visible. But I want to talk about really quick. Let's talk about can we talk about the animation, Brooke? I want to talk about the animation. Let's talk about the
It's
design.
the nation of animation.
Of animation.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think one thing about how the whole city is designed and about how the world is laid out is that within the confines of the city, you know, the city walls are big and oppressive and they're all at right angles. The city's in a box. Frequently when Robin's in the scullery, like we see bars in the like background or on the windows, and there are a lot of harsh angles there. By contrast, the like natural world out in nature is a lot more like loose and smooth and has much more curves and a softer design. I think that, you know, the oppressive nature is not just a theme of the film story, it is being also reflected in how things are designed and laid out in the space. And this extends to the characters too. You know, Maeve, who we've talked about, the little wolf girl, her character design is very like curved. Most of her character design is hair. Like her body is 70% like her mane of red hair. As a human, I mean, as a wolf, obviously there's fur everywhere. But human Maeve is like a little ball of energy, like constantly swooping and moving around. Her mother, who's more mature, has a more like fully circular shape, but Maeve, being a little wild one, is a little more like uneven and what's that like adjective verb of like oval like, I don't know. Ovular.
Is that
sure,
right, or is
maybe.
that like
maybe or is that about anyway? You know, oval-esque. Robin, at the beginning of the film, we see her in her like dad's hunting hood, and she puts it up and she has like a perfect diamond for a head to show off those sharp points. And then when she like changes her outfit later, she has more like of a curve to her soft, like open-minded character. When she's in like her scullery uniform, she's again like there's triangles there to denote that sort of angular oppressiveness. And I think that like use of these really clear geometric shapes communicates something about the world pretty consistently across the whole movie.
And it's important to note about this film that it is hand animated or traditionally animated, so it's all 2D. So what that means is that each frame is drawn by hand. This is similar to like older Disney movies, things like Snow White or Cinderella, as opposed to newer Disney movies like Tangled or Moana, which are done through 3D animation.
Yeah, and I think that level of craft is really, really hard / nearly impossible to replicate in 3D animation. I mean, obviously they can make characters that have triangle heads and like spherical shapes in 3D, but there is something about the like clear craft and the visibility of these basic shapes that communicate something about how these characters move and exist in the world.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about how the film is done in something called woodblock animation. So there is rigid line work within the town because it's laid out like a wooden block. So what you get from that are these really beautiful, striking, large scenes. At the very beginning of the film, there's a crowd scene where you've got a lot of static town, and then people moving within it, which is very cool. And then something like the scullery looks like that, or an overview of the whole town. And this also plays with perspective really interestingly. So you'll have like Maeve climbing a tower in the town, and she'll be huge because the tower is just regular sized in the background. And that's
there's a bit earlier where like Bill and Robin are walking, and Bill's walking ahead, but he is like taking up half the frame, just his body, and like behind him Robin is like struggling to keep up with him, and she's small against the road, so it looks like she's like 3 inches tall and he's dominating the space. Yeah, these perspective shifts are really, really cool to see.
And Tom Moore talked about it a little. He said it made sense for the Puritan world to be based on the artwork that they were creating at the time, which was printed text with art illustration that were done in woodcuts a lot of the time. So that's where he pulled some of the inspiration from that. And then, like Ryan talked about, when you're in the forest, it's a lot more free. There's curves. It's sort of watercolory. The forest scenes are very beautiful and very striking in a different way because of the contrast that they have with the sort of woodblock city scenes.
Yeah, the thing about the forest scenes I wanted to bring up, and this is because Brooke and I recently went to the Art Institute of Chicago and saw the Monets there, some great Monet paintings, but the detail and the use of color in the forest scenes reminds me of like Impressionism in art, where it's not about recreating something photorealistically, it is about just getting this really luxurious amount of color and detail and this maximalist approach to capturing the abundance of detail in nature in the world and just like throwing all this color at it in a really precise and intricate way that makes it feel more like vivid and alive. And I think that the backgrounds in this are really impressionistic, a lot of ways that feels, of a similar style. Monet was French, not Irish, but I think the artistic spirit behind Impressionism is present here too.
Well, let's take a moment and sort of compare it to Tom Moore's other stuff like Secret of Kells. I have not seen Secret of Kells. I've seen pictures from it. And
there's a great cat. You would love Secret of Kells.
I'll watch it. But it seems like Wolfwalkers has a more polished look. It's a little more quote unquote done, but which makes sense because they had, 2 or 3 times the budget they had on Secret of Kells. But you've seen it, Ryan, if you want to like compare those just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the basic visual style of characters is very similar. The characters in Secret of Kells and the other movie, Song of the Sea, is very similar to what it is still here in Wolfwalkers, like very clear geometric shapes making the background of characters. Also, lots of characters with like really dominant free-flowing hair. Moore must really like the narrative power of hair. I will say that the visual silhouette is very similar, and also like in Wolfwalkers, there are moments where you can sort of see the like drawn in joints of a lot of characters, which is a really neat way to show how like their bodies are working on the page and in their fictional world. In Kells, though, I think that the animation is a lot looser and more so like free flowing. Those characters are all sort of like moving with the swiftness of the wolves as they like jump around and move around. And I think that here in Wolfwalkers, there's a lot more like weight and intention in how characters are moving, and that makes the world feel a lot more like tangible and I don't want to say real, because real isn't really the point, and real shouldn't really be the priority for animation, but feels more like realized, I suppose.
Yeah. There's also, within Wolfwalkers itself, they really change the animation up when you're seeing things as a wolf versus when you're seeing things as a person. So when you're a wolf, it's like there's energy coming off people or their scent or things like that, and you can see that through the animation. And they called it wolf vision when they talk about it in interviews and everything. And that was created with the help of Irish animator and director Eamon McNamara, who did a lot of that cool stuff. Because it's a real flip in the movie when you see it.
It's very cool. It's very good.
Also, this was just sort of an interesting thing to me, but the fire that is used in the film when they're going to like burn down the woods and things like that, or try to anyway, it's bright red as opposed to like orange or yellow. But I think that they did it that way because the wolf energy is sort of a warm orangey yellow color. So then the red of the fire seems so much harsher.
Has to be clear that fire bad.
Yeah. But I thought it was such a small thing, but I really appreciated it because I thought, that really sets us, a boundary between the good things we're seeing and the bad things we're seeing.
And the only other place we really see that like oppressive, unkind red is in Cromwell's character design. So it's pretty easy to see the meaning and message there.
Yes. Ryan did tell me that this made them want to watch an animated version of the film The Witch.
or the Vavitch, as it is often
As it is stylized.
spoken.
Yeah.
There's just something about like the animation in a like Puritan horror story that I think could be really, really, really effective. I think it'd be cool. You wouldn't watch that?
I would watch that.
Okay, there you go.
So there's a lot more cool things with the animation. These were just some things that we hit on.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch it, you'll be like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful.
Like, oh my gosh, this was robbed.
Yeah, that'll be your number one thought. But we're so lucky to have a guest today to talk about the animation with us.
Yes. Joining us now to shed a little light on how animation actually works for the two of us knuckleheads, please welcome animator and all-around creative individual, Urvashi Lele. How's it going? Welcome to Nation of Animation.
Hello!
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being on Nation of Animation. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. So for all of our listeners out there in the Nation, we're working on a group name for our fans. We don't have anything yet. Brooke, this one's not going to make it.
I didn't know we were working on that.
Well, we don't have it, so... Anyway, for all our fans out there, tell us a little about yourself. What's your bona fides?
Yeah, so I'm what is commonly known as an animator. I dabble in other things like character design or illustration, but my main title is animator. And my latest project that I worked on last year was Quibi's Your Daily Horoscope, affiliated with Will Arnett. Yeah, so that's my bio.
Awesome.
In a condensed form.
And we went to grad school together at the University of California, Los Angeles, which is
we did
a fact, which is a thing.
But Lei also did our show art.
Yes, most importantly, Lei is the hand behind the faces of Nation of Animation. So thank you for your incredible logo work there.
Of course, like it's an honor to be involved with this. And thank you so much for having me. I know I've said this already, but it's really exciting to be here.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, we're so excited to finally get to talk to a real professional. So, what did you think of Wolfwalkers? Let's just start there with this week's viewing. What did you think of the film?
Yeah, it was so, oh my God, it was so lovely. I don't know. I wish I was this, film critic would be like, oh yeah, I have so many things, I have issue with so many things with it. But it was so lovely. It was so fluid, the animation, just the way things were designed, and they'd let in some kind of guidelines for the animation as well. Like you could tell that they hadn't kind of cleaned it up fully, which I think obviously was intentional, and it just made it look so much nicer. Because it's a common complaint in animation that, you kind of lose a charm of your animation, a part of that charm when you clean up the lines, because, the lines themselves are animated when they're in the stage of rough animation. So yeah, that was really lovely. In terms of like the design side of things, what really resonated with me and with the story was that whole like concept of found family, and how they're from different places and they just come together and they're like, you're one of us now. And I was like moved to tears. I was like, oh my God, this is so lovely. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was lovely. I didn't expect to like it that much. I mean, I'm a fan of the studio's work, but I was really, really impressed. What about you guys? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. Okay. I so enjoyed it. And I remarked to Ryan too, the way that you could sort of see like the lines that were kept in. And I thought that was so cool, especially as someone who doesn't know a lot about animation. It was like, look, I can see the bones a little, this was
I remember thinking like, oh, this is like the drawing books I got as a kid, where they're like, you draw the circles to make like the joints and then you erase that. And I was like, but I worked so hard on those circles. You mean I gotta erase? I remember being a kid, like wanting to draw and being like, what do you mean I have to erase when I'm drawing? No, you just get it right on the first try. And that's why I am not an animator.
I mean, funnily enough, this reminds me of this, the film Spirit. It was about this horse.
Oh, yeah. Do we know the film Spirit?
Have you heard of this film?
Brooke, do you have thoughts on Spirit?
Oh my God, I love Spirit. Also, Spirit as a horse is kind of hot. And that's like not, Yeah, it's whatever, but it's true too.
Oh my god, I have to agree. I definitely had a crush on him. And it's and he wears the feather in his hair, and I'm like, oh my god.
So
but
we
yeah,
know when we have to invite Lei back to talk about another feature film in the future.
Yes, it's been so long since I've seen it. I believe they're making a
sequel, but like a CGI 3D sequel.
Yes.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. But sorry, yeah, back to like what I was mentioning, the Spirit DVD section, or maybe it was VHS, I can't remember. But yeah, they had a like behind the scenes learn how to draw Spirit extra bit, and yeah, they taught you how to do, the skeleton first, and then put all the joints in place and build out the horse inside out. And yeah, I found that really fast. That's how I learned how to draw horses for the first time with the spirits.
That is fascinating. Yeah. That's so cool. Thank you, Spirit Stein of the Cimarron. That actually dovetails into another question I was going to ask, which is how did you get your start in animation? Or even before that, how did you know that's something you wanted to do as a career, as an artistic path? And was it purely the sexual magnetism of Spirit in Spirit Stein of the Cimarron?
It was definitely the sexual magnetism of Spirit. Okay, just to give you a little bit of a background, like my family is like full of scientists and academics, and I'm like this black sheep, artist. I'm an artist. So I don't know, like I wanted to do art, and I knew I wanted to do art, and I didn't know what exactly, but then animation sort of, it happened. I used to be obsessed with watching Cartoon Network as a kid. And so I just kind of tried to tap into the joy I felt as a child. I was like, what brought me joy as a kid? And it was animation, or it was cartoons. And so then I looked further into that, and then I got approval from my family because according to them, and I quote, it is a mix of art and science, like technology and art. So I was like, perfect, let's do this. So yeah, that's how I kind of chose to pursue it. Yeah.
Great, yeah, and being like, no, you don't understand, Mom and Dad. I use numbers. There's math involved.
Yeah, it's like this is pure coding.
It's science, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely telling them that. Shh, don't let my secret out.
There you go. I have yet to find a way to convince my family that podcasting is a scientific endeavor, but
Do you try to do that?
No, I'm not going to try until I know how to get it right. So.
Oh, okay.
Like drawing, I just want to get it done in one. I don't want to have to learn the real craft to it.
I mean, it's really easy. Like, no one will tell you this, but...
Oh, really?
The hot
insider scoop. Animation is easy, actually.
Just press a button,
Huh, neat.
Oh my god, I'm going to be excommunicated from the animation community. It is not pressing a button. It takes a lot of work. Just covering my back.
We absolutely believed you. So what is the hard work? What are some of the sort of supposing that Brooke and I both dropped the whole podcasting game tomorrow and are like, we're going to be animators too now, other than, understanding how to hold a pencil, understanding what shapes are, what do you think are the key principles of animation, or what are the first rules that every animator needs to learn, have drilled into their skull before they can do the work?
Yeah, so the first and foremost thing that they kind of beat into you in animation school is timing. You got to be good with your timing. And actually, funnily enough, you get told that you don't have to be a good drawer. So it's as long as you have that sense of timing, you're golden. Because a lot of people actually, when in the OG animation kind of generation, is maybe not OG. I'm not talking about the golden Disney years, and probably more like the 3D animation genesis. That would be they weren't really from an artist background. Were more like engineers and software developers and stuff like that who kind of got into it. And so it was timing is the main thing. So yeah, once you get that down to a T, that is the first thing you need to nail. And that's actually why sound is so important in animation, because that's how you animate, because you animate to the sound. That's what helps you with your timing, because you don't have your audio, it's really difficult. It has been done in the past, like the sound has been kind of foleyed onto the animation, but now the standard is you get the audio first, try and lock it down as much as you can, and then you animate to that. So yeah, timing.
Cool. That also goes back to the science that your family was so eager about. Yeah, engineers. Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh my god, I didn't think of this. Oh, there's so many layers.
There you go.
So we're talking sort of about, you mentioned like the 3D animation, Genesis, things like that. What to us lay people would be like the different lay people
yeah
would be the difference between traditional animation or like 2D animation, something like Wolfwalkers, as opposed to something like Tangled?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like it's the process, like the pipeline of how things are made. I think 3D animation is very prep heavy. So animation tends to come in at a later stage. So you have to have your models ready, like of the characters. So they're not physically, but physically virtually constructed in the 3D environment. So that process happens first. Everything is rigged. So it's kind of like stop motion in a way, where you're making all your puppets and making sure everything is ready. So it's like setting the scene, theater as well. Like, everything is ready and good to go, and animation just comes in last, of course, before the editing stage and stuff like that. Whereas in hand-drawn animation, like it sometimes works in tandem almost, but it's like the first thing that happens would be your audio that gets done, and alongside that, once you get that done, actually you get kind of the feel of what the characters would be, because that's the actors are the essence of the characters. So character designers tend to go off of that, kind of get the feel of what the character would be, so they design the characters. And then once that is done, then you have the storyboard artists come in. Usually this can overlap, like you can have the storyboard artists and the character designers kind of working around the same time, but preferably all the designs for the characters have been done. And then once the storyboard is done, then it goes to an animatic stage, which is you put together kind of a rough idea of like a timeline of what the storyboards would look like in a timeline. This happens in 3D as well, but it happens alongside a lot of other things, such as the rigging and the character building. So there's a whole added layer. But once that's done, though, it's so much faster, because animation in 2D requires just the rough animation, where you just draw with the movement and the timing, and that's when this is your fine art, let your emotions flow kind of thing. And then you get that done, and then you have to clean it up, because no one wants that fuzzy animation line stuff. And then there's the coloring stage. So it's like, it's very rigorous and kinds of mindless almost after rough animation, because it's like you have to do it like at least twice, the same thing, which you can avoid in 3D because you don't have to clean up and color. So yeah, hopefully that was, it's like timey-wimey kind of
that's truly fascinating, this whole like multi-step in industry, really, this like multiple legs of the like assembly line to build an animated feature. That's really, really fascinating. Do y'all have a union? Do animators have a union?
Yes.
Oh, thank God.
There is an animation. Yeah.
Good.
There is.
Good. Whenever I hear you, when you were like, it's a lot of mind-numbing, repetitive action, I was like, I better have a union. I was like, I better have a union. But I'm glad you do. Good.
Yeah, there's a union. Yeah.
Good. I have a question. We spoke a bit, you're talking now about like how like characters are built before they're animated, primarily in 3D animation and then also in 2D animation. And in terms of like character design, The characters in Wolfwalkers all have very clear, distinct like silhouettes. We were talking earlier about how there's like very clear like geometric shape principles to a lot of them, and that the characters that are more negative have like sharp, harsh right angles and corners, and the more trustworthy characters are a lot more curved and fluid. And I guess in your mind as an animator, when you're designing character, what sort of geometry do you think of when you're trying to like figure out how everybody looks? Is that a thing that like is part of your process, or is that just sort of us being armchair animation fans?
Oh no, you're absolutely quite spot on. Like it's definitely that comes into play. It also depends on like what the time period was as well, and what's associated obviously with good versus evil, quote unquote. But yeah, it's definitely like rounder shapes tend to be more pleasing to the eye, as that's what I was taught in art school anyway. I don't know if that is actually scientifically accurate, but
everything in art school has an asterisk on it. Yeah.
Yeah, with a pinch of salt. Yeah, so it is like harsh shapes, like straight lines, you know, like sharp angles are associated with the bad guy. Even color comes into play, like, you know, certain colors like red. Funnily enough, like red was traditionally actually associated with good, because Winnie the Pooh was like, you know, red and, you know, wearing yellow warm colors. And then Hercules, like Hades, was all blue, also black, like wearing blue and black kind of thing. So that's kind of, people are challenging that, because, you know, I feel like once the like you get out of this kind of mindset that this is how it's supposed to be, like you can believe it. Like if the character designer is convincing enough, the audience will believe it. So it's not always, there's no hard and fast rule really. It's just you look at what's been done, and you know, you kind of see like, okay, this is what people perceive as good versus bad, and then you kind of make that decision accordingly. Yeah, so shapes and colors are really, really important when it comes to character design.
Fascinating. That's so cool. Thank you for that. That's neat. I just think it's neat to think that like so many characters, there's only so many shapes. I mean, there's obviously like a lot of them, but most of the shapes are just combinations of other like basic shapes, and we put it all together, and it's like, that's Winnie the Pooh, and that's Hercules, and that's, you know, a third animated character that we all know. And
there's only those two now.
It's the two. The two genders are Winnie the Pooh and Hercules.
So, Lei, thinking about yourself as an animator, you know, you personally, what are some of your biggest influences on your animation, whether that's like shows or movies or specific animators?
Okay, so this is like, I'm gonna sound unfaithful to my work, or not my work, my what's it called, like your trade. Unfaithful to my trade. Yeah, I take most of my inspiration from the world of fashion. So it's like, you know, like I my independent films are what I was looking at. I would look at the catwalk collections of from Vogue or something, and then you see the color palette and see what the trend forecasters would say is going to be in like, you know, a couple of years time, and then design characters based on that. So like most of my films after coming to UCLA, or even just a little bit before that as well, around my undergrad as well, were very influenced by fashion. Now, like, it's obviously a mix of things. Hardly get inspiration from the animated world, which is awful to say, but I suppose it works in a way where, you know, I can avoid the whole copyright thing. So it's like, oh yeah, this just reminds me of that thing. I try to avoid that. But yeah, so I try to take inspiration from everything around me, as pretentious as that sounds to say, but fashion is a big one.
Yes, I love your reel. I've watched it a million times.
Thank
Sometimes I just think, I haven't watched Leigh's reel in a while. I'm going to go back and watch it because it makes me very happy.
Hey, where can we find your reel, Leigh? Where can other people watch your reel while we're on that topic?
You can watch my reel at www.sirpeagreenstudios.com. That's SIRPEAGREEN. Studios.com. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make sure we get that plug in there. But I think that's fascinating on the topic of like taking inspiration from fashion. I think on one hand, that's neat that you're not just sort of like making animation about animation. I think in many creative fields, you can only draw inspiration from your own field, and then it becomes this sort of echo chamber. The worst example of this is like if you see too much improv, you'll just eventually see improv about improv scenes, and it's like there's no there. The performers no longer have any like sincere experiences. It's just them riffing on themselves. That's an extreme example. I think like pulling from other elements besides like the animation world, it keeps a work fresh, and that like is an intriguing way to maintain a sort of artistic intention there, to analyze your work there. But on the topic of fashion versus animation, if you're pulling influence from the world outside animation, then what projects do you think are best suited for animation, as opposed to any other medium? When you think about creating something new, what helps you decide that this is a thing that I want to animate, this is a project I want to tackle in this form?
I mean, it just cuts out anyone, trying to reach out and get anyone involved. I mean, like, I can just do it myself. And I'm not trying to make a feature here, but like it's, if I have an idea and I just want to see like how it's going to work out, I can just draw it out and have a rough idea of how it's going to work out. So, I mean, obviously it is a group effort, like nothing in the field of animation, I'd say, is like, you can never do anything single-handedly. Even if you are a freelancer, you will be working with other people. But when it comes to my personal projects, like, I feel more comfortable. I guess I'm also used to it, but yeah, it cuts out the middleman in a way, where I can just do it myself a lot faster. Yeah.
Respect, man. Extreme respect. I know that feeling. Awesome. Great. Well, actually, if we could bounce back to the world of fashion for a moment. I understand you're also working on a clothing label at this time. Would you like to tell us a bit about that?
Yes. So this is giving you context again. I've always been into fashion, and I've tried to get into it, but like animation does take a lot of time. So I always put it on the back burner, but now I'm kind of embracing it. Pandemic times given me a lot of time to think and reflect. So this is I'm calling it a menswear label, but it's the ultimate goal would be to have it like a gender-less label. Because the world of fashion is so binary. There's menswear and women's wear, although gender-free clothing is coming up now. Just to like get a start into things, it would be easier just to kind of assign it this label, as it were. But it's a label for the men who like to shop in the women's wear department. So it's kind of normalizing the idea of the man in a dress or man in a skirt, or anyone who wants to wear a dress and a skirt. Like, we got you. So I'm just working on that, and I have to say my character design kind of chops have really helped me out here, because like all that color theory stuff and all that proportion stuff and all of the things that I've learned that associate like what people associate with whatever they associated with, that's really helped me in design things that I think look really cool. So yeah, that's awesome. What I'm working on at the moment as well.
Fantastic. And is there a place we can go to learn more about this label?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I forgot to mention it. It's called Maison Ordmi. It's Maison is the French word for house, but Ordmi is a mixture of these two Hindi words. I'm from India originally, but so the Ordmi is a mix of the two Hindi words. One is Aurat, which means woman, or female rather, and Admi, which means male. So it's kind of like the word garçon, which is like a with the two N's and an E at the end, which is kind of like the androgynous word in French for androgyny, really. So you can find us at Maison Ordme on Instagram.
Wonderful. And we'll have all this in the episode description as well.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so as a animator and fashion designer, let's talk about the Wolfwalker characters again.
Yes.
If you could give our pal Maeve, a little feral Maeve, makeover, what would you like to dress her as while retaining her, feral wolfy spirit? What would you like to put her in?
Oh my god! You know what? The problem. I didn't have any problems with Maeve. I had a problem with the other
fashion,
one.
Perfect tits across the board.
I want hair like that. I want bright, red, shiny, huge hair.
Well, all right, great. Maeve's ready for Milan.
But no. The other character, I was like, you're a little bit annoying, but
Robin, a little too Puritan. Give her a little shaken up. Awesome, great. That was my last burning question. Thank you so much for joining us, Lei. We really, really appreciate you taking the time to educate us on the craft and labor involved in our favorite animated pictures and everything that you're working on. So thank you so much. We'll have to bring you back to talk about Spirit Stein in the Cimarron and to talk about, we'll get some distance on Quibi and then we'll look back on it and be Quibi remembered, and we'll talk about your daily horoscope.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for having me, you guys. This has been amazing.
Awesome. So where can we find you online other than Sir P. Green and Maison Aldme?
That's me, really. On Instagram, I'm at Sir P. Green as well. So that's where I live, Instagram.
Fantastic. So at the end of every episode, we do a real world recommendation, something that is from outside the world of animation that we want to encourage our listeners to enjoy and expand their horizons, like enjoying fashion while working on animation. So if you want to just recommend, Maison Aldme is a great real world rec we should all check out. But is there anything else that you've been enjoying, whether it's a TV show or a book or an experience?
So I've been watching, I finished watching this mini-series. I don't know if it is a mini-series, but it looked like one. It's called Generation on HBOmax is where I watched it. But it was a really refreshing series, and I really rather enjoyed it. I don't want to tell you what it's about, because if I do, there'll be spoilers. But it's very, very refreshing, and I feel like it's very relatable, and it was nice to see something like that being represented in television. So highly recommended for us, artists. And anyone else as well. It's an inclusive show. So go watch it. It's really nice. Generation.
I'm so hesitant to rec this because I just started this book, but I am enjoying it. It was also a finalist for the Man Booker Prize and is a New York Times bestseller, so it's not even really a secret. Everyone will know it, and they'll be like, we've already read this, Brooke. It came out in 2015. But I just started A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I'm enjoying it. It's 800 pages. I'm 100 in, so I may have an update next episode if I hate it at the end.
That sounds awesome. I need to get back into. I really have respect for you, you reading books. No, that came out wrong. I love reading books. Just this pandemic, I haven't been able to commit to a book, and it's just been so hard. I just finished Circe, the Madeline Miller one.
Great book.
Yes,
so good. But that took me a year. I'm not even kidding. This one I'm definitely going to check out. I have nothing to read at the moment, so 800 pages might take me a few years, but
keep you occupied, Lei. Have you read Madeline Miller's other book, Song of Achilles?
Oh, so
the
good.
Gay one.
Oh yeah, it was so good.
So good.
Yeah, the gay one.
So good.
I didn't think she could, do any better than that, which sounds awful. I was like, she's peaked, and then she whips out Circe, and I'm like, wow. It was really good. Await her next one with bated breath.
She's a good one. Yeah. She was a classics grad student, which I think is very funny, reading all these myths and be like, I could do this better. I could take a swing at this.
Yeah.
I think I know
Absolutely.
Achilles. I could tackle that dude.
I know, so worn
What a
in.
call
Like,
shot.
yeah. Yeah. Oh my god. No, I'm sorry. I have like just one other rec. Actually.
Please do.
Just
Yes,
bouncing
please.
off that Greek mythology craze. Stephen Fry has this series of books. His first one is called Mythos or Mythos, or however you say it, Mythos. Yeah, it's really good, and they're kind of like quasi coffee table books, but you know, like with narratives, of course, because it's about the Greek myths. He's got one about Troy coming out soon, and another one he had recently out was called Heroes. It's really good, like really engaging and very funny and very like witty. So yeah, I highly recommend that one as well.
Nice. Check that out. Thank you for the double recommendation. Fantastic. My rec this week, last week, renowned mangaka Kentaro Miura passed away. He is most known for the series Berserk, which is sort of an anime manga take on like Western fantasy of like knights and kings and dragons and stuff. So I've finally been reading it. I've gone back and like started reading it now that it's now that the person behind it passed away, which makes me a fake fan. So I'm sorry. It is fascinating though, and like reading it and seeing the like art that it's used, you realize that like so many things in our pop culture are absolutely inspired by this work. I will say it's extremely violent and deals with a lot of like extremely adult themes because it's about war in the Middle Ages, a time that like sucked. So it's definitely not for everybody, and that's okay. But when you like look at it, like I think of stuff. Like most modern video games are inspired by this. Like the Final Fantasy series is something inspired by this, which means stuff like Ready Player One is inspired by this, which means like I would be not surprised if Game of Thrones is inspired by this because it definitely has a lot of that same like extremely violent high fantasy flavor. And I've been really enjoying it. It's been really, really, really cool to like go back and see what has turned out to be like a seminal text in the 20th century. And rest in peace to Mr. Miura. His fans have had a rough week, so yeah. Anyway, the downer ending. Anyway, so I can't wait to listen to read Stephen Fry's books though, and I can't wait to watch Spirit Sign of the Cimarron again, and something that we can all enjoy. Thanks again, Lei. Thank you for joining us. We really, really appreciated it.
Of course, thank you. You too.
All right, so Lei, why don't you wrap up the show for us? Why don't you say that classic catchphrase we say at the end of every episode?
Nobody knows what it is, Ryan. Nobody knows.
This is the fun. This is, we're going to just shoot from the hip. At the end of every episode, what do we say, Lei? We say the state of animation is...
sound?
Yes!
Wait, really?
No, we say strong, but...
Well, there's
where the
layers to
episode
that.
will end, so...
Because sound is the foundation of animation, so like that should
That's what we learned
That's
today.
what it should be. Okay, now I have to leave this part in, because... Nation of Animation is hosted by Ryan Stevens and Brooke Aaron Smith and produced by Danny Mendoza. Our show art is by Urvashi Lele, and our theme music is by Jacob Menke. Be sure to follow us at Cartoon Book Club on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for listening!